Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. I'm so excited that you're back again this week, and I want to thank you, as always, for sharing and subscribing and supporting this podcast as you do. And today we have a really nice guest. I'm so excited. Being part of the Publish Your Purpose group has just opened up so many windows to me and so many doors and so many friendships. So I have in the Gay with God house today, Betsy Cerulo. I knew I was going to do that.
You got it.
In the Gay with God house, we have Betsy Cerulo, is the CEO and founder of AdNet, AccountNet Incorporated, advocates for workplace excellence and equity. AdNet is based in Baltimore City and is a management consulting firm focused on professional staffing, human capital management, and executive search services. Betsy is a founding member and board president of the Maryland LGBTQ Foundation and co-founder and past president of the Maryland LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. Betsy serves as the Chamber's public policy chair. Betsy is a passionate activist pushing for equal rights for women in all diverse groups. Betsy is published author of Shake It Off Leadership and a children's book entitled Miss Crabapple and Her Magical Violin. Betsy is the host of the podcast Room at the Table. Betsy holds a bachelor's degree in business from Catholic University and a master's degree in integrative health science from Capital University of Integrative Medicine. Betsy is a certified executive coach, and she is in the Gay with God house today. Betsy, welcome.
Yay. Good morning. Good morning, Midge. I'm so excited to be here. Really powerful conversation to have.
Oh, thank you so much. And as always, I will turn the mic over to you and tell us your story.
Well, when I look at your topic, Gay with God, I come from a very traditional Roman Catholic Italian family, brought up in New Jersey. Middle brother was a priest. Only reason why I say is he passed away in 2011, but he was the real deal Catholic priest, the ones that everyone would wish to know, that was welcoming of all. He considered my wife his sister. So there was no barrier because he was a priest. He welcomed everybody. It didn't matter what your walk of life was. He wanted you to come worship God. And if it happened to be in his house, that was fine. But when he and I would have conversations, because my mother was a staunch Catholic, and I started to worship at a local Presbyterian church, and she couldn't really wrap her arms around it. And I just said, it's about acceptance. And my brother would tell me, I don't care where you go, as long as you have some attachment to God. That's all I want for you.
Aww.
Yeah. So he was amazing, but he was actually pretty pivotal. When I came out in 1982, he was the first family member I called. And I was actually, ironically, at Catholic University. And he was where he was serving as a priest was probably in Baltimore when I was in DC. So he and I were always very, very close. And I called him up and he said, I don't want this for you. It's going to be very difficult to be gay in our family, and our mother's not going to make it easy for you. So, I tried going back and forth for years thinking, well, maybe this is a phase. And it wasn't. It wasn't. I was very, I'm going to say I was very fortunate that the men that I did date throughout my life were lovely people, that I was honest and open about my life, and they loved me no matter what. And I can remember one in particular said, it doesn't matter to me. If you still want to have that part of your life, you can have that part of your life. And I just said, I can't do that. I'm monogamous. So if I'm in a relationship, I'm all in. And but he respected me for that. And we're still the best of friends today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, again, I was really fortunate. I don't have any dramatic stories to tell of why I am gay. I believe I was born that way. My father died when I was 6. So, my mom was never remarried. So I didn't really see that in her. It was very focused on us. I think I can remember since I was a youngster having feelings that I didn't quite know what to do with, but I knew that it was quote unquote wrong the way I was raised. So when I got into college, I was away from home. I could really experience a lot of different things, different people. I had my first experience, and if I, could reflect back to 1982, it felt like I came home.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a struggle again, the back and forth and dodging the comments and using different pronouns, like I'd make up a guy's name for whoever the woman was. And we've all been that way.
Yep. My friend.
Yeah. And, I'd have to remember to get everything straight, if you will.
Yeah.
And then, I would go to events with a couple of my guy friends, and I'd go with them who were gay to business functions. So, you have to play that game.
Yep.
And it got tiring. It got tiring. So when I told my mom, she drove down from New Jersey to visit me at school, and I told her in person. And her response was, it's just a phase. Just come home from school this summer. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out together. And, who did this to you and all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't easy, but in the end, I really stood my ground with her. Yeah. But it was tough.
It is tough because, the one thing that we need in, Maslow's hierarchy is that belonging. Right. Do we belong to you as a family member? And do you love me? And do you accept me? And when we have shaky ground there, it really does kind of follow us throughout our life. It starts when we're young. And I think that's why a lot of us, either experience anxiety or imposter syndrome because we were imposters for such a long time. It was almost ingrained in us to be whoever somebody else wanted us to be instead of who we really are. And I think the longer we practice that without meaning so, it ingrains in our psyche, and it's hard to uncover that and to release it. And especially when, when I read your bio and I thought, whoa, that's a lot of Catholic experience, that's a lot. And that is probably one of the hardest places to come out of, I think, because it is so specific and so narrow and so sometimes rigid. And it's very hard. I'm so excited that your brother was so open and loving. I mean, he got it. He was one of the Catholics that got it, that it's not just about the dogma and the way you interpret everything. It's about love. And boy, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was really amazing. And my wife and I met in 1998, and I just knew that she was the one. And I think on some level, my mother knew too, because she was most resistant to Susan. And it took almost 2 years to get them in the same room. And it was actually my brother Tommy pushed it one time, and one of my sister-in-laws pushed it for a family party and said, you will bring her, and put us all at the same table. So, I think in some way we were all afraid of her on some level, to disappoint or what have you. But over the years, it was challenging. But when I got married to Susan, my mother was not at the wedding.
Mm.
It was in 2013. It was a very small wedding with my siblings. You know, at that point, I had lost two brothers.
Mm.
So it was a happy occasion. And I regret it. One regret I had was that I didn't tell her, because one time she made a comment to me, because I think at the time in New Jersey, they were getting ready to pass the same-sex marriage.
Mm.
And she said, if you're going to get married, do it after I close my, in a dramatic way, after I close my eyes forever. So me being, very courageous in my professional life was like, oh my God, I can't tell her. And interestingly enough, my oldest nephew called me the night before my wedding. And he said, Aunt Betsy, if there was one thing I would wish, is that you told Graham, whether or not she came, but that she knew, so that you could be freed up from that on your day. And he was the only one in my family that did that, that told me that. So it took me, it took me about a year to tell her. I sat down with her, went up to New Jersey, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. I can't carry this. This is a happy thing. And I sat with her, and I wrote about it in the book. I had gone out for a run, and I thought, okay, I'll tell her after I run, and we sit down and have breakfast. And I'm sitting there having breakfast, and we're doing our usual chatter. And I thought, in the span of 30 seconds, once I tell her, I'm going to be so relieved, and I'll handle whatever comes. So I told her, and she looked at me. First thing she said was, who else knows? I said, everybody in the family knows. And I said, and I'll go down the list and tell you who was at the wedding. And she said, well, I'm always the last to know. Why didn't you think to invite me? And I said, because frankly, Mom, you made it really clear. And that was the happiest day of my life, and I wasn't going to have you interfere with it. So, and you flat out said to me that if I was going to get married, not to do it until you were no longer on the planet. And she said, well, that sounds like something I would say. Right. And then she says, I know how much you love Sue. She would call her Sue. Her name is Susan. And I can tell how much she loves you. And I want you to be happy. And I said to her, and I said, well, you know what? No one should ever hide loving someone who means so much to them. That's why I'm telling you this. You got to have a beautiful relationship with Daddy. He was the love of your life. I get to have the same thing too. And I do. And she's the love of my life. And she looked at me and she said, then I'm happy.
Wow. And that's a nice ending to that. But look at how many years you had to, hide, change things around, feel the fear of coming out to her. And then I don't know what it is about mothers, and I don't know what age your mother was at the time, but how can they not remember the significant things that just completely stymie us and our growth? Sounds like something I'd say. You don't remember saying that? That was a pretty dramatic moment in my life. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was, my mom actually passed away at 98 a year ago. And so she became the most incredible mother at the end, because she had dementia. Now, in the moment, she knew exactly who we all were, but she released all the things that she had judgments about. And my brother and I would say, wow, she's the mom we always wanted. I said, yeah, I'll take it. Even if it's at this time, I'd rather have the last memories of her be this.
Yes.
And she was exquisite. When my wife would come up to New Jersey with me to visit, she was so kind to her, complimentary. So it was, though I wish she was like that all the time, at least I
Mhm.
got to have that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that that's a beautiful moment to be able to have that memory
Mhm.
and have that be the last times that
Yeah.
you were with her. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So mostly everybody else in your family was okay?
It was not consistent.
Uh-huh.
I definitely periodically would get uh reactions that were hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
Um Anger, I could get down the list,
Mm-hmm.
but I walked through it.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, again, in the end, I lived my life. I lived my life on my terms. Now, there's no strife at all in the family. Susan and I have been together for 25 years. So she is a fixture in my family.
Yep.
So, but again, when first coming out in the 1980s,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in my 20s, it was, you go into this, or at least I had this naivety that
Mm-hmm.
the people that are my family are supposed to love and protect me.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't that.
Mm-mm.
It was conditional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you were at the Catholic College, University,
Mhm.
and was there any discussion that you would have to leave the school? Did anybody?
No, no, there was actually a fairly robust, active LGBT community at that time, but it
Oh,
was quiet.
uh-huh.
Um, and so I never felt unsafe. I had one incident with uh a woman that was, I didn't even really know her well, but she was an athlete. And, my feeling is when someone gets that animated and angry, they're probably covering up something for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So I can remember having a conversation with this person and frankly denying it all as though she was the dean of the school. I still never remember that. Like, oh man, I can't believe that. But funny thing, in the end, whenever my friends and I are together for our college reunions, and we all, you start talking about all the same things from way back
Mm-hmm.
when, they remembered that time clearly. And I had acknowledged them in my book on how loved I felt and safe I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And they remember this one particular woman that gave me that problem and said, "Oh, she's just disgusting." So I was, with my college friends, and my high school friends, my friends were unconditional for me. Nobody cared. It was like, all right, just be safe, because we all need to be safe. But since you're
Yes.
you're going to explore and you're going to places that are on the seedy side of town, just be careful. And
Yeah.
so I felt loved no matter what.
That's
Really
awesome.
did. Yeah. I even, we had a pretty big reunion recently where I saw my friends. And again, we just talk about some of those times where none of that stuff matters. It was about
Mm-hmm.
who we were as people.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a beautiful story. That is awesome. So, when you come through things like that, you have the adversity, you
Mm-hmm.
have family support, but you also have non-family support, and you you get to choose what you focus on, and
Right.
you get to choose what propels you forward. So, what has been your driving force, do you think, in being able to navigate your authenticity? You're a woman in business, you're
Mm-hmm.
gay, has any of that ever been the something that could have held you back, but you had some sort of chutzpah to keep you going? What is that about you?
Um, it's important to me when I look at my experiences, especially in business, and we'll put the gay thing over here. Just
Mm-hmm.
being a woman in business, I started my
Mm-hmm.
company in 1990. There were still so many barriers for women, and being
Mm-hmm.
turned down for financing and just the usual ugly comments made by men in general without
Mm-hmm.
even saying that I was gay. it,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't always feel like a safe place, so I was just extremely careful.
Mm-hmm.
um but very motivated and driven in my career. And I just kept going. And as I got older, I felt like I need to leave something behind for young people who are experiencing these kind of challenges in business as a gay person or a diverse person. And, and now in 2023, soon to be 2024, we have seemed to have gone backwards. So it's important. It's even more important that we do get our stories out there. And to be able, like, when I'm around people who are very firmly a certain political affiliation that's different than mine, or they have had, or they make just stupid, unevolved comments about gays, I now say something. And, I don't, even though I really just want to put my hand around their necks and squeeze because it's so mean. I just say, okay, well, obviously you don't realize that I'm gay. And usually like,
but
yeah, you are, or they're so embarrassed. I said, well, and then sometimes I get into conversation. So let me tell you a little something about our life. We have very traditional family. It just so happens that two women are leading that family. And we have the same problems you have. Our kids have the same problems your kids have. We have the same worries about our grandkids that you have about yours. There is nothing different here.
That's perfect.
So I try to open someone's mind like that. And then every so often, if there's a religious conversation, I stand firmly on the God that I believe in preaches love for all. So I don't understand why you think you're better than me. Because I worship the same God that you do. I just happen to worship it in maybe a different venue. I read the same Bible you read.
I think that I've never been more enlightened than when I read Brian McLaren's book about a new Christianity, and he talked about the Bible as being not the Constitution that we're supposed to follow, but that it's more like a collection of memories and life back in that time, and how they survived it and what they believed and how they evolved from not understanding God into trying to make God into what they could understand, and then the evolution moving forward. And I thought, wow. So, because we were taught it is the inspired word of God and it's in black and white. And if you read it, you believe it, and that settles it. You don't question that. And yet we do need to question that. We do need to see the inherency of some of the things that are in the Bible that, there's like two creation stories, there's even the Gospels can't agree on the events and how it happened, and how, because it was written by man hundreds of years later.
Right.
I can't wait for the documentary 1946 to come out and to talk clearly about, have you heard about that documentary?
No.
Oh, honey, it's 1946. And that is the year that a little intern was sitting in a room with a bunch of old white men. And they were doing yet again another translation, and they were trying to put the word homosexual in the Bible, and they looked at the Greek, and they chose the word that now is the one that condemns us the most, that's in the Bible, but it wasn't there in that translation. Now the word might have been there all along, but if you looked at the Greek word of the way it was written, it was something completely different and more open and diverse. But in 1946, they chose a different translation of the word. And the intern's going, I don't really think that's exactly right. If you really look at the Greek, the way it was intended in the very beginning, it really means this, and it would be spelled this way. And they wouldn't listen to the little intern in 1946. And now the word that's in the Bible is completely the most condemnation that we could have. So when that movie hits, will it change minds? Not the ones that really want to stay closed. No.
Right.
However, I think for those of us that have come through religious trauma and we have tried to figure out how we can be worthy and why the Bible may be misinterpreted, this movie will be very enlightening for a lot of folks that are still struggling.
Well, I will be looking for it. When is this supposed to come out?
I think in December, the 1st of
Okay.
December. They've been doing like screenings and, all of those things that I never am in any place to be able to hear it or see it. But I think it will hit theaters the 1st of December, somewhere along in there.
Wonderful.
I know.
Yep.
But that's the thing with being raised in the church and having that message for so long. It really affects people. And so your ability to be motivated and driven as a woman, but also as a gay person,
Yeah.
I think we're beginning to lose that in life in general. Like you said, and things are going back for women. And, we had this whole influx of rights and, we can get married now and all those things. And now the Speaker of the House comes out and targets us in the most blatant way. You can't really try to discern what he's saying. You can just know what he's saying. So there is a lot of fear out there now.
Yeah.
Moving forward, what's your most fearful thing about where the next election might go, how it's going to affect our families, our wives, our kids?
I just feel like, politics in general has become really ugly. And it's become almost like reality TV.
Yes.
which is not fair. Where these people we have elected them or non-elected them based on what one's choice is, but they're there, they work for us. And I feel as though whenever a politician is in the room, we're supposed to just bow down to them. And I stop and I think to myself, when any politician walks in the room, oh, so-and-so. And I think to myself, but you work for me. You should be thanking me for your job. And I think we have it backwards. And if we would just take out the personal and stick to the facts, I think more people can get what they need. And you look for look at the climate now with the different legal matters that are out there. And you think to yourself, if me as a business person, if I inflated my company, my value, if I didn't pay taxes, if I would have been thrown in jail. I would have been. So what I don't understand is that people that are following certain politicians that have clearly broken the law and really stretched the truth on both sides of the aisle. I'm not just focusing on one, both sides of the aisle. Why do you continue to praise them? Why do we continue to allow them to hold the job to influence our company? Our country. I don't understand. And when I get into some of these conversations with people and it's a man, and they make a comment about some of the female politicians. Okay, if that was your daughter or your granddaughter, how would you feel if someone spoke about them that way? And that usually stops the conversation where they're like, I would be really upset. So you need to stop. Because if you have an issue with gay people, I guarantee you will want someone like me out there fighting for your daughter and your granddaughter's rights, regardless whether they're Republican or Democrat. You will want me to pave the way for them, women like me. So you need to respect us and you need to stop the rhetoric. And so I have no problems having those conversations with people now that I'm in. If I'm in group conversations and I hear something that's just like, ooh, yeah, you might have gotten away with that 20 or 30 years ago, but that's just not proper now.
Good for you. Good for you. That's such good advice. I like that. When we make it personal and we can come down away from how reactive we might have felt to that comment and just speak to them on that way. We talked about that in our formation class on Sunday, how, everybody's waging war now. No matter what it is. I mean, even at like stop signs, it makes it's just the whole country is just so volatile right now. And that, waging peace is the only thing that's going to make this better. That we can't match their anger and their disrespect. We have to come through the powerful peace of love. I mean, love is more powerful than hate if we'll just hang on and not panic.
Right.
And I do believe that the consciousness in this country, although the ones that are narrow-minded are still the loudest because the rest of us have still some decorum. But I hope that we'll get loud when we vote, and I hope that we will be advocates, in the times that we can be advocates. If we're safe enough to speak up gently and not in anger, because if you lead with love, I do believe it is a very powerful motivator.
Right. Exactly. And there's more love out there than there's evil. But for whatever reason, the evil seems to be the loudest, whether that's, the influence of the media, which is unfortunate. I don't even read the news on a regular basis. I will scan it in the morning and that's about it. And, from a business perspective, I should be more informed about certain things. It gets in the way of goodness. And I don't want to start my day with a lot of the ugliness. So I just get the key things that I need. And then I get to work.
Don't dive in too deep. Just scan it.
No, but I've already kind of rehearsed in my head. So my wife and I moved out of the city, and we live in an area now that is, I would say, not as diverse in many ways, which is different for us because we've always lived in the city. So I thought to myself, okay, when it comes to voting next year, my response is just going to be, I'm voting for people that will honor my daughter and my granddaughter. That's exact. I'm going to take me out of it. That will honor who they are as women. That's where I'm doing my vote for. It's not about me now. It's about how the world is going to be for them.
Yeah, that's good.
And we didn't teach them hate, so I'm not voting for anyone that promotes hate.
Good for you.
Yeah,
good for you. I'm aligned with that as well. Yeah. And it is different. I mean, I live in the city, but we're a small city, and we have it's a red city. Somebody said the other day, I love this. They said, I would like to meet purple people.
I know, right?
Because I can't talk to somebody who is just so set in your ways that I can't communicate with you. But I think there are purple people out there, and I do believe that love will win eventually. I just don't want to go through whatever might happen before that.
I know, but Midge, my hope for this election, because I've seen it in past elections, is that the churches stay out of it. Don't try and influence your congregation. You go to church on Sunday, whatever you day. For me, when I listen to Mass, it's a time of meditation for me. And I go between. I usually listen to Catholic Mass every Sunday, and it's not that I believe it. It's just that the tradition keeps me connected to my ancestors.
Sure.
But we also worship in Presbyterian and Episcopalian. We were married in Episcopalian church. So for me, wherever I go, I don't want to hear about politics when I'm worshiping. That is my personal time with God to be grateful for the gifts and to pray for those that need much more than I need. So my hope is that just please keep the politics out of the church, bulletins out of the pulpit, just leave it. Leave it alone.
Yeah. I totally understand. And I'm grateful that I found the Episcopal Church, because I was not raised Episcopalian or Presbyterian or any of those things. My grandfather was very fire and brimstone, old school. And we went to his church whenever he was preaching within 30 miles. We were required to go to his church. And if we didn't show up, he would call and say, who died?
Oh, gee.
There was no wiggle room. Yeah, anyway.
But so what?
Go ahead.
In the end, you worship your way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate what you were saying about mass and because Episcopalians have the liturgy, we have the pomp and circumstance to a certain extent. And I never thought that I would like that because we never had that, but going to Eucharist every Sunday, being able to, I just adore how the Episcopal Church is set up for me. It's just perfect because I can wear jeans, or I can serve as a woman. I can serve as an openly gay woman. I have just hit my stride. I love it when, who was it? The comedian, I can't believe I forgot his name, but he died from Lewy body dementia. Super funny. But anyway, and he would say Episcopalians are Catholic light because we have all the liturgy and half the guilt. Robin Williams, that's who said it.
I was going to say, was it George Carlin?
No, it was actually Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a great way to describe them.
So it fits me. So we're going to take all of this conversation and just put it up to our higher powers and the God of your understanding, and all will be well. And as Julian of Norwich said, all will be well, and all shall be well, and all matter of things will be well. So I would love to know more about your book and to talk more about you in that way. So tell us about your book.
Well, Shake It Off Leadership, Achieving Success Through the Eyes of Our Labels. I am so proud of it. It took me about 5 years to get it done. It's part memoir, part business book for people that need to see that, you can get rejected, turned down, no, and you can still be successful. You just have to learn how to navigate the waters out there. So I was really proud of the book. It came out during COVID, so it didn't get as much, out of the box mileage that I wanted to. But now it's really a springboard for me to write my other books. So I'm in the process of writing a leadership fable. And I have always loved Patrick Lencioni, he's been on New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestsellers list, where he does a lot of business books that are a little bit smaller, and a lot of them fables, because I think we can relate to those kind of stories. I don't really want to read a book where I have to look at graphs and formulas. I want to understand the actual experiences and stories of what drives leaders and how leaders can solve problems.
Ooh. So are you doing interviews with people? Is that how you're setting? So these are going to be live, real stories of folks that others can learn from?
So some of them are based on my own experiences, where the names would definitely change, because I have some in 33 years that I've been in business. I've got some good material.
You got some stories.
Oh yeah. And the good thing is, when you write a fable, you can change things around as much as you want, as long as there's a good ending that someone can learn from.
That is so awesome. That is a very unique, interesting way to do that. That's really good. So when do you expect that to evolve?
That's going to be my 2024 plan.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to have one of the books done next year. You never know, if I really get on a roll, I could do 2, but I'm going to start with the 1. I have another children's book that is it's finished. I have to finish the edit. So I will probably release that one first, because I love to get in the imagination mode for children, because it's so fun. It's so fun.
Well, tell us about your first children's book, and then tell us about the new one.
Well, Miss Crabapple and Her Magic Violin, that was a story that I made up in the moment to my granddaughter, who is now 24. So she was about 6. And Aww. Saturday night, she would spend a lot of weekends with us. Saturday night was story night. So it was my turn. And I tucked her in and just made up a story. And I came downstairs and I said to my wife, I just told Alyssa a story. That was a pretty good story. I need to go write it down. So it took a long time to get that published, but eventually that's what the book was. And it was really about, the theme of it was really about all different kind of people impact others, and music really frees people up.
Mm-hmm.
And I used the book, the illustrations of the book show diversity, because I'm just all about diversity. Everyone's included.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fun book.
I
Fun
bet
little book.
it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And the new children's book?
That is based on a story that one of my uncles told me growing up. So I just took the character and I built this story around the character about a dream and about accomplishing the impossible.
Ah, those are so uplifting. Books like that are so great for kids.
Mm-hmm.
So where can people find your current book and your pending books later?
So both children's book, Miss Crabapple, and then my leadership book, Shake It Off Leadership, can both be found on Amazon.
Okay.
I also have a website, betsycerulo.com, where they can order them directly there. If anyone wants an autographed book, you just have to let me know and we'll get one sent out to you.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Ah, you're just amazing. I'm so glad that we've met, and I'm so glad that you shared your story. I'm just so in awe of strong women who shook it all off and never let anybody say no. I mean, even when you got one, you didn't let it stick, and you were able to live authentically and bravely and lovingly. And you've created a family out of your belief that you deserved it. And you are right. You are right. And tell Susan, thank you for sharing you with us.
I will. And Midge, I'm so in awe of your podcast, your book, your journey, how you just put it right out there, Gay with God, because God doesn't matter. It does. No, God matters. God doesn't care.
Yes. Yeah. I appreciate that very much. And I'm just grateful that I stayed around long enough to see that God was always working in me, even when I didn't know it, and it's something that I so desperately want people to know, that you don't have to kill yourself to try to figure out, can you be gay and in relationship with God? That it even when the people tell us that we're something negative, we never were, and we're not.
No.
And when we let our light shine, we're letting God's light shine through us.
Absolutely. And we need a lot more light, because that light's going to overpower the darkness.
Amen. And that, my friends, is what we call good news.
Yes.
We call that good news. Well, thank you again. I really, really appreciate you being here today. And guys, all those links for the books and to be able to connect with Betsy and to use her services will be on the website, the Gay with God show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. And remember to check out our Facebook group on Facebook, Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. And we also have the availability to support you in all sorts of different ways. So with the Gay with God book, if you want me to zoom into your book club, there are book club questions in the back of the memoir so that you can have your own book club. And we are starting a Gay with God book club this next month. I'm going to start it out with folks who did pre-order the book and the ones that have the book right now in their if you've bought the book, you can join the group. So stay connected with me. Message me if you have questions at empoweredmidge@gmail.com, and I'd be glad to give you more information about that. I am also available as a coach to you if you're having trouble coming out or with your faith journey. You can connect with me, my website, gaywithgod.com, or you can private message me at empoweredmidge@gmail.com, and I would be glad and honored to serve you. And as always, if you have a need to join Keith Brown's Wipeout Trauma group, there will be a link on this show page to link you to that group, where he specifically goes through all of the conservative and evangelical issues that you may have growing up and has a support system to get you through that. So whether you experienced abuse due to your identity or resulted in some sort of identity trauma, that group would be for you. And he has a systematic and practical plan that you would practice daily so that you could begin to heal. And as a bonus, Keith also has a forum community where you can ask questions, get support, and make connections with other students. And that Wipeout Trauma link will be on the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. So if you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or not even sure if you're gay, God has always been within you, even when you didn't know it. You have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned and see how you can connect to the Gay with God community. And remember, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.